Welcome to In Depth Tonight. What is going on beneath the streets of Evansville? It is no secret we have been battling water main breaks for years. Evansville is not alone. Consider what has been going on in Owensboro this week. So what is the answer? More than a few people feel we have kicked the can down the road for decades. Well, the can has finally stopped rolling down the street, possibly in your neighborhood, in the form of major construction that is expected to go on for years. I'm joined tonight by Alan Mounts. He is the director of the Water and Sewer Utility in Evansville. It is called Project Refresh Evansville, and it's going to be going on for a very long time. People are paying for it in a gradual stream of rate increases. What would you tell the ratepayer, considering all the construction that is going on right now?
Well, I would say that we're upgrading the system, particularly water lines and other infrastructure that dates back to maybe the 1910s, 1920s, 30s, etc. It's very old. It's end of life, and as you noted earlier, it's been breaking quite frequently, actually at a faster rate than it is on a national average. So one of the things we're after is providing reliable water service, and in order to do that, you've got to replace the systems, the water lines that are out there.
You told our crew Wednesday if Evansville sustained a break like what we saw in Owensboro, I'm not putting words in your mouth here, but you made it sound like that could be catastrophic.
In my opinion, it would be. Certainly we respond as quickly as we can, but the water lines which feed in the main arteries that feed the rest of the system, 1,000 miles of line, are large. They're 30 to 48 inches in size. They're about 14 feet deep. When they break, then water's going to be shut off to certain areas of the city, and depending on how many of the lines break. So, businesses would not have water, restaurants would not have water, homes would not have water. And just similar to what Owensboro went through, we try to mobilize as quickly as we could, but it could be 2 or 3 days before that's repaired.
Okay, how long are we talking about here? I mean, you 1,000 miles of pipeline, and I asked you, well, how far would you drive if you drove 1,000 miles?
Well, if I got in my car today and took off and headed up 41 to I-64 and started heading west, I'd hit Denver, and that'd be about 1,000
miles. We're talking about
miles.
1,000 miles.
That's 1,000 miles. And what people don't realize, we also sell water to Gibson County, Elberfeld, to actually in Posey County. But it's a large system. Of that, 600 miles of it's really old cast iron pipe. I think the average age is about 90 years of age. It's at end of life. That's what's causing the breaks. So what we're doing with Refresh Evansville is we're going to try to replace 15 miles a year. So if you do the math on that, it'd take 10 years to replace 150 miles of that. And
Weinbach Avenue is a major project right now. How are you determining, okay, we're going to start here, but we may be several city blocks away, we may be working on another project? How are you picking the areas that you're going to try to fix?
This started probably maybe 3 years ago, where we started collecting water main break data and plotting it as to where we had more severe breaks in certain areas of the city than others. The Weinbach area, bordered by Lincoln Avenue South all the way down to Pollock, is one of those hot spots towards 41. Weinbach is a major artery. So it's based on water main break data, age of the pipes that are there. So we've been able to identify key areas where we want to attack those specific areas and try to fix neighborhoods, if you will.
And let's talk about that concept of this new scenic mini water park splash pad down on the riverfront near the new water treatment or sewer treatment facility. There has been some confusion exactly how that's being paid for. Walk me through that.
Well, what we have to build there is related to the sewer project, and it's called a pumping station, which is basically, as the wastewater is cleaned up, it has to return to the river. And part of the overall design of that is we have to build this pumping station, which the logical place to put that is where Sunrise Park is today, or Kids Kingdom. And the reason for that is our main sewer line runs through that to the river. But the splash park really came about the idea that when we engaged Leadership Evansville to engage the public for feedback on what do you want this to look like. And so there's a variety of feedback sessions, and during one of those sessions, somebody said, we'd love to have a splash park. Well, that sounds very attractive, but we haven't really reached the point to say that that's part of the scope of the project.
Because ratepayers will be paying for that.
That ratepayers would be paying for it. So we still have to work through what are we required to do. We want that to be an attractive area, but splash park is something that would be nice to have, but not necessarily essential to have.
How much is this first major stride, I'll call it, how much is that going to cost?
Are you talking about for the pumping station?
Everything that's going on right now.
On the pumping, on the sewer side?
Well, give it to me on the sewer side.
On the sewer side, well, for example, the pumping station will probably design somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 million.
And that's mandated by the EPA.
That's mandated by the EPA. Also, there's been some confusion over what people have called a waterfall feature. And yes, it is a cascade of water, but we can't drill a hole through the levee. We've got to go over the levee, and we have to build it in such a way that it satisfies the Corps of Engineers.
And a lot of this is kind of changing the landscape of Evansville, and people are seeing it in their neighborhoods. But you had told me that it's going to take maybe more than 10 years to get the Slough issue resolved. I mean, it takes time to fix that.
It takes time to do that, yeah.
And as far as the neighborhood, the landscape of neighborhoods, and a lot of people, I mean, it's the nature of the beast, but it's still...
I've used the term...
It'll be a mess.
It will be a mess. I've... maybe a bit dramatic, but I've used the term, it's almost like we're invading the neighborhoods. And these are well-established neighborhoods, you know, mature trees, nice lawns, but it takes big equipment to go in and dig up the lines that are in the street.
Social media is having a field day with this, Alan. There's been some questions about this proposed rebuild of Walnut Street from downtown to Van Avenue. And this could impact ratepayers if water lines have to be moved. And maybe they have to be moved anything or replaced on Walnut.
And it could be. There are various projects that happen that we call road-related relocation projects, where as a result of projects that are happening within the road, we have to move our water lines to get it out of the way of a certain area. The other factor would be, certainly you don't want to install a new road and then have an old water main system there that would break.
And you'd have to dig it right up. That's a common complaint in every city,
yeah.
It seems like.
That would potentially happen. So those sort of activities, we would coordinate with the city engineer and others who are designing that. I know it's under discussion. I'm not sure what the timeline on that is.
And finally, what about some of the historic neighborhoods downtown? The Cobblestone Street, First Street, Second, just southeast of downtown. Not far from the Wrights home.
Yeah.
I mean,
our highest priorities right now, those are not the hot spots that are
by
causing...
hot spot, you mean?
I mean in terms of the most frequent water main breaks which occur. They do occur there, but not with the same frequency.
You would think that with those old pipes, they would be
You would think that. You know, one of the things I found out was that pipes that were built in the 1900s actually have a longer lifespan than those that were built during the World War period.
And the reason for that is interesting. You told me.
Well, the reason is because the good quality steel and iron was redeployed for war purposes, and the quality of the cast iron pipe was lesser quality, therefore it breaks more frequently. And so the Weinbach area headed towards 41 would probably be homes that were built back during that era.
Okay. Alan Mounts, the director of the Evansville Water and Sewer Utility. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for talking about this tonight. I imagine we'll be talking about this.
It's going to be around for a while.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad.